Hi everyone. Are you thinking of pursuing your career in Spring Framework? Here is the first video in our series on Spring interview questions, which discusses the top questions with proper explanation and examples. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe in Everyone Can Code YouTube channel. So, what is Spring Framework? Spring is a development framework for Java programming. It is an open-source development framework for enterprise Java. The core features of Spring Framework can be used in developing a Java enterprise application. It has many extensions and jars for developing web applications on top of Java EE platform. With Spring we can develop large-scale complex Java applications very easily. It is also based on good design patterns like dependency injection, aspect-oriented programming for developing extensible feature-rich software. So, what are the benefits of Spring Framework in software development? Many benefits of Spring Framework are: 1. Lightweight framework. Basic Spring Framework is very small in size. It is easy to use and does not add a lot of overhead on software. 2. Container. Spring Framework provides the basic container that creates and manages the life cycle of application objects like plain old Java objects. It also stores the configuration files of application objects to be created. 3. Dependency injection. Spring provided loose coupling is application by dependency injection. It uses inversion of control technique by which objects specify their dependencies to Spring container instead of creating new objects themselves. 4. Aspect-oriented programming. Spring Framework promotes and provides support for aspect-oriented programming in Java. This helps in separating application business logic from system services that are common across all the business logic. Logging can be a cross-cutting concern in an application. 5. Transaction management. Spring provides a framework for transaction management, so a developer does not have to implement it from scratch. Spring transaction management is so powerful that we can scale it from one local transaction to global transactions in a cluster. 6. MVC framework. For web applications, Spring provides MVC framework. This framework is based on MVC design pattern and has better features compared to other web frameworks. 7. Exception handling. Spring also gives support for a common API to handle exceptions in various technologies like Hibernate. Good. So, what are the modules in core container of Spring Framework? Spring Framework has a core container. Modules in core container are: 1. Core module Bean module context module. 2. Spring expression language module. What are the modules in data access layer of Spring Framework? Modules in data access layer of Spring Framework are: 1. JDBC module, an abstraction layer to remove tedious JDBC coding. 2. ORM module integration layers for Object Relational Mapping. 3. OXM module, an abstraction layer to support Object XML mapping. 4. Java Messaging Service module, module for producing and consuming messages. 5. Transactions module, transaction management for POJO classes. What are the modules in web layer of Spring Framework? Modules in web layer of Spring Framework are: 1. Web module. This provides basic web-oriented integration features. 2. Servlet module, support for servlet listeners. 3. WebSocket module, support for WebSocket style messaging. 4. Portlet module, MVC implementation for portlet environment. What is the main use of core container module in Spring Framework? As the name suggests, Spring Core Container is the core of Spring Framework. It gives the basic functionality of the Spring. All the parts of Spring Framework are built on top of Core Container. Its main use is to provide dependency injection and inversion of control features. What kind of testing can be done in Spring Test module? Spring Test module provides support for unit testing as well as integration testing of Spring components. It allows using Unit or TestNG testing frameworks. It also gives ability to mock objects to use the test code. What is the use of BeanFactory in Spring Framework? BeanFactory is the main class that helps in implementing inversion of control pattern in Spring. It is based on the factory design pattern. It separates the configuration and dependencies of an application from the rest of application code. Implementations of BeanFactory like XMLBeanFactory class are used by applications built with Spring. XMLBeanFactory is the most popular implementation of BeanFactory in Spring. What is XMLBeanFactory in Spring Framework? XMLBeanFactory is one of the most useful implementation of BeanFactory in Spring. This factory loads its beans based on the definitions mentioned in an XML file. Spring Container reads bean configuration metadata from an XML file and creates a fully configured application with the help of XMLBeanFactory class. What are the uses of aspect-oriented programming module in Spring Framework? So, aspect-oriented programming module uses are 1. Development of aspects in a Spring-based application. 2. Provides interoperability between Spring and other aspect-oriented programming frameworks. 3. Supports metadata programming to Spring. So, what are the benefits of JDBC abstraction layer module in Spring Framework? Spring provides JDBC abstraction layer module. Main benefits of this module are 1. Helps in keeping the database code clean and simple. 2. Prevents problems that result from a failure to close database resources. 3. Provides a layer of useful exceptions on top of the error messages given by different database servers. 4. Based on Spring's UP module. 5. Provides transaction management services for objects in a Spring application. Okay, so, how does Spring support Object Relational Mapping integration? Spring supports Object Relational Mapping by providing ORM module. This module helps in integrating with popular ORM framework like Hibernate, JDO, and iBartis SQL maps. Transaction Management module of Spring Framework supports all of these ORM frameworks as well as JDBC. How does Web module work in Spring Framework? Spring provides support for developing web application by using Web module. This module is built on Application Context module that provides context for web-based applications. This module also supports web-oriented integration features like transparently handling multi-part requests for uploading files, programmatically binding request parameters to business objects. This module also supports integration with popular web frameworks like Jakarta Struts, JSF, and Tapestry. What are the main uses of SpringMVC module? Spring Web MVC module is also known as Web Servlet module. It is based on Web Model View Controller pattern. Main uses of this module are 1. Integration of Spring with other MVC frameworks. 2. Supports inversion of control to provide clean separation of controller logic from business objects. 3. Provides clean separation between domain model code and web forms. 4. Allows developers to declaratively bind request parameters to business objects. Finally, what is the purpose of Spring configuration file? So, Spring application can be configured by an XML file. This file contains information of classes and how these classes are configured and introduced to each other. Spring inversion of control container uses some kind of configuration metadata. This configuration metadata represents how an application developer tells the Spring container to instantiate, configure, and assemble the objects in your application. This configuration metadata is stored in Spring configuration file. The other ways of specifying configuration metadata are Java-based configuration and annotation-based configuration. So finally, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. Everyone Can Code YouTube channel. Good luck.